Hello and welcome to another episode of GMO-Free News. We have a full house today. We have quite a few guests with us. But first, let me introduce myself, Rachel Linden, host for your show today, along with Kathleen Halal, joining us from sunny California. Jack Olmsted, our producer. We have from the University of Hawaiʻi, Manoa, we have the class of a journalism class 401. And how many people do we have in the house in Hawaii? I count, let's see, 7 of you guys, is that right?
There's more.
There's more. Okay, some are off camera. That's cool. That's all right. And we've got the director, or excuse me, producers of the movie Drift joining us from the University of Oregon. And so we've got Hope and, is it Marie? Hope and Marie?
Marla.
Marla, thank you. Joining us today from Oregon. Welcome, welcome all. I understand that we have some presentations today. Who's going first?
Yeah. Yes, we can go first.
Excellent. All right, students, take it away.
Okay. So, let's see.
And so we're seeing a presentation. Are we on the islands? And is this about mostly about pesticide drift, or?
Yes.
What are we looking at? Okay.
Right now we're going to run through a couple of slides of some footage that our investigative team took behind the scenes. And some of them can explain what they went through with this. It's just about like 9 photos. Here you see our logo that we created for our class with our motto, Igniting Your Voices. And then if you guys want to go ahead and explain these. So this is the North Shore, one of the signs when you get to Haleiwa. So this is where they went and did all their investigative work for the most part. And so then
this is actually so that's
I think we lost audio.
Did we lose the students in Hawaii?
we can hear you. Hold on.
Okay, keep talking. I think we.
Well, let me explain something. So they're going into Haleiwa, which is on the north shore of Oahu. So there are basically 4 islands in what we consider Hawaii. There's the Big Island, and there is Molokai and Maui, and then we have Oahu, which hosts the capital city, which is Honolulu. Most of you might be familiar with Waikiki. If you go and you've had a honeymoon in Waikiki, you're not far from the North Shore. That's on the other side of the island. It's where a lot of the surfing tournaments are held in Haleiwa. It's a great tourist destination. You get some serious waves, the bonsai pipelines there. There's a botanical garden that's phenomenal. I highly recommend going there. And don't just stop at the garden. There's some hidden springs and back that you're going to want to take advantage of if you visit the islands, for sure. It's kind of like my little tip to you next time you're on the islands. So Haleiwa, definitely a slice of paradise, not the kind of place you would expect to hear about chemicals or dumping or drift or cancer clusters or any of the kinds of things that might be associated with the biotech industry, meaning genetically engineered foods, with food production. But the islands, believe it or not, are sort of a testing ground for a lot of different chemicals and plants, and kind of the perfect place to experiment, because think about how many hours of sunlight, perfect weather that you have, and ideal growing conditions. So they've become sort of like the target for the chemical/biotech industry to really take advantage. And a lot of times the land that they work on is not owned by the chemical company, but rather leased through the school system of all things. So these chemical companies don't really own the long-term damage. They just sort of lease the property, and it seems like they're not thinking about it in sort of like long-term stewardship of the land situation. But anyway, I will leave you students to it.
Can you hear us again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
there's kind of like two areas that there's big agriculture going on, and agriculture has been going on in the North Shore for hundreds, at least 100 years. There's a big sugar plantation that was in Waialua for many years. So there's a legacy of that sugar plantation and the residents that surrounded that area in Waialua, which were mostly people that worked on those sugar plantations. So there is a conflict because most of the people that are moving into the North Shore area are people that are very aware of environmental impact, but also the people that used to live there for many years before that were people that used to work in the sugar plantation, and they are very loyal to these companies, and a lot of people are also workers for these companies. And so you have a conflict because you have the small farmers are still trying to do conventional methods of agriculture, and God knows we need food produced here in Hawaii, but then also we're trying to establish some sort of buffer zones or some sort of release of information on how much is being sprayed. So there is a lot of points of conflict there. This is a greenhouse that is at one of the companies that operates in the North Shore is DuPont Pioneer.
Excuse me, but your slides aren't progressing.
Can you hit the arrow and make the slide move forward?
There you go. You got it.
No, that's backwards.
Sorry about that.
There you go.
Yeah. So this is a picture that we took on one of the biotech companies there that operates in Waialua. This company did not want to talk to us. We did reach out to them for comments on what they have to say regarding pesticide drift and concerns with the community. They did not get back to us. Let's see. And this company also operates they pretty much share a fence with one of the high schools in Waialua. So the Waialua High School is directly across from a big agricultural field, biotech field. And so when you have so many things that are not getting addressed, this is actually a stream. Can you see that picture? This is an agricultural it's just some sort of gulch, I guess, where there's whatever water that comes from agricultural fields will reach the ocean. So this is a pretty rainy day there.
So actually, this photo is taken by one of the residents in North Shore, Dr. Greg Hungerford. I contacted him because he posted a video on a Facebook page of the tractor spraying him, and he actually lives across the street from one of the fields. So he was very concerned about the spray, and he got sprayed twice. So that was actually the focus of my part of the story. So he shared with us those pictures and videos of him and his family getting sprayed.
This is a behind-the-scenes picture of us shooting an interview with one of the dry farmers that operates just in Pupukea, which is also in the North Shore.
What's a dry farmer?
It's someone that supports farming without that doesn't require water or irrigation.
Wow. What kind of doctor is he?
I'm not sure, but he's just a resident. So, I mean, the fact that is not really important in the story. It's just the fact that his son got sick after the second time they got sprayed, and of course the doctors could not relate that to the spraying itself, but they cannot rule it out as well. So he may or may not have been sick because of the pesticide drift. And then the last picture that we have is behind-the-scenes interview with Rex Dubiel. She's a school teacher at Sunset Elementary, and she had a lot to say. She has a lot of concerns about all the pesticides pesticide drift because she's a school teacher and she's concerned about the health of the children that she teaches in the area.
And then, just so you guys have an idea of where we are at, this is still screen sharing, correct? University of Hawaiʻi is, what? Can you guys see this map?
No, we can only see the picture of the school teacher.
Google Hangouts.
Okay, let me see.
Screen share.
Okay, now you guys can see me.
And then click entire screen.
Okay. So, can you see it now? I just want to make sure. Okay,
Yes.
cool. So this is where University of Hawaiʻi is, just on a Google map. And then the North Shore all the way over here. So if I move this map, again, we're over here in this area in North Shore, where Anna, who was talking about all those first photos, this is where she was, right here. So I keep zooming in on that. You guys can see this area a little bit better. So this whole part.
And so actually, if you can actually see here, this is the high school, Wailua High School, and the fields, the Pioneer DuPont fields are actually right here, all this area. So they share a fence, basically, with the high school.
Excellent. So how well is that fence keeping up and keeping out pesticides? Is it holding up? Does it keep everything out?
It's just a wire fence, so it's not keeping anything out. There are some.
Oh, geez. Whoa. What is happening? Go
Well,
ahead.
that was mind-blowing.
It's not necessarily a fence built to keep the pesticides out. It's basically just to set their territory. So I don't think they built that fence with that in mind. It's just a regular fence. And there are some shrubs around the fence, but there are neighborhoods and the school right next to the fence. It actually has that on the website.
Can you tell us a little bit about the film project that you're doing and how it came about? Like how the idea come up and how did you, and then you get permission from your professor, I'm assuming, and how this come about that you wanted to sort of record what was going on in Hawaii?
So as part of our class, we split up our class into different groups. So the investigative team had to come up with a story, and Anna, one of the reporters, she proposed that we cover the story, and we're all interested. So we looked more into that, and we only had 5 weeks to put it together. So we do have some videos, but it's mostly a print story that's on our website. So that's how pretty much it all came together. And pesticides is a pretty big issue here. There have been many articles written on it, so we wanted to kind of, I guess, bring both sides of the story so that we're not biased. So that's why we try to talk to the agricultural companies, the biotech companies, and also some of the proponents of pesticide use. But unfortunately, a lot of them did not respond to our request for interviews.
How many students are involved? How many students are involved with this project?
So we had 4 reporters, and 2 videographers. And then also we had some other supporting staff on our investigative team who helped us transcribe interviews, put together graphs, and put together the videos. So I think in all we have 7 people working on this.
I think it's a great idea that you're doing this because it's not really in the mainstream media. I mean, nobody hears about this pesticide, battle going on in Hawaii on the mainland, and it's good that you're bringing attention to this and that as students you're thinking about it. And it's also good that you're covering all angles too. That's a fair way to present things, and you put it out there that you would talk to the other side about what they're doing. But the experimental chemical spraying is an issue. The Hawaiians have had health effects from it. Children are getting sick. Mothers are miscarrying. When the pesticide experimentation came in with these chemical companies, they stopped keeping records of birth defects in the hospitals. I find that pretty disconcerting. And I just think that it's great that you're sort of looking at the whole angle and raising awareness, and as students going out and exploring these issues to get the answers for yourselves. I mean, I think it's brilliant. Are there a lot of students who are interested in this project that you're doing outside of your class?
I couldn't say. I think people here in Hawaii in general are more aware of the the environment, just because we live on such a small island and so many things affect us and in our lives. So I think people here are more aware, but I couldn't say how many students are actually interested in the story.
Are you speaking with any medical professionals? Any of the nurses or doctors who've been standing up?
We did not speak to any of them for this story, no. We did not get in contact.
Is your story finished, or are you going to be adding to it?
It's not finished, of course, but I'm not sure if we'll be pursuing anything else. We are working on a different story currently, so but there's a lot more to be said, and there's a lot more going on in the legislature and other places as well. So it's never finished.
Yeah, no, you're. I know in Waikiki alone, they have thousands of people showing up at the marches. March Against Monsanto being one of the biggest ones, headed up by Babes Against Biotech. Nomi, I know Nomi. She does a pretty good job of organizing out there. I'm sure you probably run into her, or at least on Facebook. Yeah, I mean, you guys did cover it, and I love that you did cover it from the other side too. One little piece of like criticism I might have would have been, I would love to see a successful organic farmer, and I know you have them. I would just love to hear their story personally. But I think it was an excellent. I hope you guys all got good grades. Is that your instructor back there? Is your instructor in the house? I hope he dished out some really good grades for you guys, because I think you did an excellent job, and it was just excellent production quality too. So kudos to you. Hope you got some good marks out there. And yeah, so are you going to be presenting to the rest of your class at all? Is this going to be part of maybe something you'll show your fellow students?
Like to the university, or just like the rest of our program?
Yeah, no, I mean to the rest of your university. I mean, is there a way for you to like really show off your production? I mean, it's really good. I think you should maybe put that out there.
You have a TV channel at the university?
So through our other portion of the class, our Tuesday portion, we actually do the broadcast. So I think that this could be something that broadcast production that we put on actually does go on air at the end of the semester. So it could be something that we can look into in the future. But ideally, we would love to share this with the university and stuff like that. We had coverage from Civil Beat, which is a local paper in Hawaii, so that was great for us. And then, of course, we have our social media, our website. So as long as we keep spreading the word, our main target audience for our class when we first came up with this organization was 18 to 30-year-olds on Oahu. But this story obviously goes above and beyond to nationwide. So that was kind of one of the things that we wanted to do ideally, was bring the stories locally and then push them out nationally. So I think our investigative team did an exceptional job with doing that. So
very professional and very aloha. I like it. I think it'd go over well. Whether you love GMOs, you hate GMOs, you want them labeled, you don't want them at all. I mean, it really. I think everybody would appreciate it. And I think I have to just say, I don't want to discount you as being students or young people, but there's some value in that. Like, seriously, hearing it from the younger generation that this is important to you really brings it to the forefront for older generations. Like, wow, okay, well, this is important to the young people. They get to inherit our messes or our successes, you know, so you guys are going to be here a lot longer than we are. I'm maybe a little past the 30-year mark on your demographic, but I still appreciated it. So just a little, not much more than a little. Anyhow, so and journalism students, this is important all over the world. I see students coming up from all over, YouTube hitting this topic all over. So you guys are right on the mark. You've got the pulse of what's happening all around the world. So kudos to you. And now coming from Oregon, we have from the University of Oregon the gals that took part in Drift. I wanna welcome you to the show and let you talk about Drift for a minute. I haven't seen it. Tell me what's good about Drift.
Awesome. Well, it's very similar to the story of the folks over in Hawaii. We spent about 6 months researching it, and advice to you guys: it's never over. You guys will be fighting this battle, and it will consume your lives for a long, long time, because we have you know, it's a rippling effect. You continue to get involved and hear more stories and hear more points of view and perspectives, and it keeps opening doors to different opportunities and ways to get this information out to diverse communities and diverse people and audiences out there. And so here in Oregon, we have our main industry is the timber industry, and which involves clear cutting our forests and replanting our little Doug firs, and then spraying them with pesticides and herbicides for the first 5 years of growth. And these portions of land are close to homes, schools, you know, waterways, fish-bearing streams, all the things we don't want herbicides and pesticides to be involved with. So we kind of went at it in combating and investigating the Oregon Forest Practices Act, and found out that we have very, very weak laws here in Oregon. And it's very unfortunate because, you know, being Oregonians, we are in love with our environment and in love with the outdoors, and that's what we're proud of as a state. And to be young people and be, you know, none of us who produce this film were journalists or in the journalism school, but have different backgrounds in science, biology, environmental studies, you know, humanities, and we all came together and really focused on creating like ethical media making and storytelling. So we really tried to not be biased in. Is someone controlling the screen? I'm confused. Cool.
Excellent. Well, I know the story about Oregon, the Oregon forestry, the mechanics of the Forestry Service there is actually kind of shocking to me. We've interviewed Carol von Strom, the author of A Poison Fog, and E.G. Vallenatos, A Poison Spring, and we have interviewed Daryl Ivey, who was the pesticide whistleblower who came out recently, and it's a tale. It is a saga, and it surprises me that it's still going on. Carol von Strom has stories of, you know, activists blowing up helicopters. The story of, you know, it's crazy and horrible. I don't know if you cover any, how much of you cover that in your film, because I of course haven't seen it, and I'm now dying to see it because I love that you're covering this. You know, film and media and interviews and what we're doing right now is the wave of the future. It's how people learn. It's the fastest way to convey a point of view, and it's still one of those independent ways that we can get a message out rapidly. So activists and people who care about the planet, this is their tool, and so I'm so glad that you young folks, you students, you journalism, you know, majors or minors, or people who don't even have it, are still able to go out there. I never majored in journalism. I don't have any production. It's quite evident I have no production talent whatsoever, you know. But I don't let the fact that I don't have that skill set stop me from telling what I think is a very, very important story. And I appreciate that you girls have done that too. Did you at all feel like did you feel like this was a horrible thing that you had, like an injustice that you had to bring forward? Is that what motivated you, or?
Absolutely. So we began this project. Our leader of this group was the graduate student. So her entire thesis was about this class, Just Stories. So it's like justice stories. It's like trying to combat these environmental justice issues through storytelling and media making. And so the film Drift is focused on the community of Gold Beach, Oregon, coastal town. And after that, we decided to create a website and interviewed multiple women in Oregon who have been involved in this movement for many, many years, including Carol von Strom. I'm going to try to screen share. So here we have, like, can you guys see this?
Not yet. Hit the green button. Hit the green arrow.
Can you see now?
Yes.
Oh.
Okay, so here's our website, and so we had the opportunity to interview all of these, you know, very powerful women in this movement, and we learned so much about how we can get involved and different stories, and really learned how powerful stories can be, and you know, trying to raise awareness with these issues. And why is it still going back? There. Do you want to touch on anything?
Yeah, I guess it's just been a way for us to learn more about what's going on in Oregon. I mean, you live in a place that you think is this really progressive, really green state, and then we come to find out that the private timber industry is still able to spray pesticides, which is something that the federal government banned in the 70s. But how is it that private timber lands are still able to do this? And so that's really what we're fighting, is that this really shouldn't be happening anymore. It's just we're in a point, you know, with government that we should be able to move past these issues, and that we should be able to protect our land and our community.
What year are you two? What year students are you?
We're seniors.
You're seniors.
Yeah.
How long have you been working on this?
We started last January, and it's been a crazy experience. We never thought that Drift was going to have this much of an impact. I mean, we've been threatened. People have threatened to shut down Drift because we've had people who have come to us that are private timber or private foresters, and they've said, like, we want to shut you down. And so that's been really crazy. And you know that if they're paying attention, you know it's a big deal. You know, and our movie has been screened not hundreds, but a lot of times across Oregon, and that's really amazing that people are taking it upon themselves to show this story.
So after we created Drift, we decided that we wanted to show this in communities and hold public forums and panels. And so in each community that we went to, we would have a panel of scientists, perspectives on economic sides, different nonprofit leaders, and different just community leaders throughout Oregon to come and be there to answer questions. And we really just wanted to create a space to have the conversation about pesticides and herbicides and what is actually going on in our state, you know. And you know, each turnout, sometimes we'd have 100 people show up, sometimes we'd have 50, sometimes we'd have 15, and we'd go to these rural communities that want this information and are lacking it, because these are the timber communities. These are the communities that are ran, you know, it's like that half and half divide of half of them are timber people and half of them are people who want a healthy community. So over the summer, I think we had about 10 screenings, and altogether probably around 20. And it's still a movement that we're like really passionate about. We're presenting at a media conference next month, and you know, it's just a rippling effect. Like we said, we had no idea this is going to become what it has, but it's a really powerful movement that we're really proud and passionate to be involved with.
It's interesting what you just said, that the communities are kind of half people who want to be healthy and half timber people. And I think that what's going on is that I'm pretty sure the timber people that are doing this believe it's harmless. And you know, that's what I run into in conversations all the time with people. You know, I think everyone wants their children and their families to be healthy. I just think that there's a sort of mythology out there that these chemicals, oh, they don't really affect anyone all that much. They're not really making anyone that sick. I don't think there are very many people out there using these chemicals that think they're going to harm people. I think it's just that a lot of people are really uneducated on the issue, or they're maybe educated by the pesticide salespeople who tell them, really, it kills everything it touches, but it doesn't hurt people. You know, it's kind of like that's how they're selling this. And I think that, you know, films like yours really do raise awareness. And even if people from the timber industry come and they feel angry having watched your film, I'm sure that it makes them start thinking, you know, hey, maybe this stuff isn't as great as we've been told. And it's all about raising awareness, and it's really impressive that you two have gone out. And I mean, how big is your team? Is it just you two, or who else has been involved?
No, in January we started with about 12 students, and then the second 3 months of the actual term that we were in, there was I think 9 of us. Yes. And then during the summer, and the people who are still involved, there's probably about 5. But yeah.
Do you have a professor who's very supportive? You know, a lot of times in these situations, for the students at the University of Hawaiʻi as well, professors will get leaned on because a lot of these big chemical companies end up funding the university programs in large part, and sometimes the professors have to, you know, answer for it if their students are sort of out of hand. Do you find that you've had a fair reception and that people have been fair about your moving ahead with this project to raise awareness about what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, we were led by a graduate student, so we are all students here, and it's like we kind of came at it as we are students wanting to conduct research. So we did try to contact the representatives of the logging industry. We did try to contact the chemical companies, and no one would give us an interview. And instead of, you know, giving us a chance to, like, we are learning. We want to understand this entire system. We don't want to be biased and just hearing the side that is, you know, being affected by these. We want to hear why you're doing this. We want to understand, you know, what kind of thought process you guys are going through. And instead of, like, giving us an interview or just allowing us to understand their point of view, you know, they went above our heads and they went to our administrator of the department and were, you know, told us, like, that we are uncomfortable with this. Like, we don't want your students snooping in our business. But it's like, these are just students. You know, they're students conducting their own research. Like, so kind of separating ourselves from a professor who is, like, kind of top down and being just students I think has given us a lot of room to really explore and really put ourselves out there and, like, understand that what is going on, you know.
Thank
really
God for snoopy troublemakers like you.
Keep asking questions. Keep asking questions. Keep learning and keep telling people about what you're learning. That's what it's all about. And when people want to keep you from learning, it kind of makes you think twice, like, why don't they want me to learn about it? So either they know they're doing something that might not be great, or they really believe it's just not harmful and you're being pesky. But either way, you know, everybody should be transparent. So keep investigating.
Keep pulling back the curtain, ladies, all of you, and gentlemen. I know there's some gentlemen in the crowd. Yes. You know what I was going to say, too? When I worked in Oregon, I was a student, but I also worked part-time for OSPERG, which is Oregon State Public Interest Research Group, and we would canvass, and oftentimes we would go to just communities, sometimes fairly rural communities, and we would canvass asking for support because we were like a think tank, an environmental think tank amongst other things, and we needed financial support, so I would go out to the communities and raise funds and talk about the issues, and oftentimes we'd be talking about the forests and the health of the forests and how important that was, and I would be talking to people who were laid off from the timber industry because of, you know, some environmental impact that's waylaying their job, and oftentimes those people were not angry. They were very supportive. They know we have a problem. They're human beings. They've got to work. They've got to feed their families, but they still do care. And a lot of them would rather be doing something what they would feel as being more productive and more adding to the value of society long-term into nature than taking from it. But there is sort of a shortage of that in some areas, and shortage of those kinds of jobs. And to me, that's a fail from our leadership top down, and that's unfortunate because it doesn't have to be that way. And I was shocked when I started learning the complicity behind our forestry service with the chemical industry and the paper or timber industry. I had no idea that our forestry service bent over backwards to spray all these chemicals for a small amount of additional growth. And so they didn't have to compete with weeds. They'd spray in mass these very toxic and noxious chemicals so that they could come back later and clear cut, so the trees could grow up quicker without having to compete with weeds or bushes or anything like that. So it's kind of like you're dumping all these chemicals to then come and cut down the trees, and it's just like rape upon rape upon rape of the land. And then you have the workers that then get sick. Now you have the water that's full of chemicals. Can't we find a better way? We've sent people to the moon. We're talking on our computers to one another. Hello? Like, when will everything else catch up to this new millennium, this new group of people and a new rising of thinking to where we're not just putting damage upon damage, but we're creating success without raping the planet or each other. I think we're smarter than this. And the idea that my tax dollars, my hard-earned money, goes to support this kind of broken cycle of abuse, it's just unconscionable. It's time for a change. And we're feeling it from the young people up in a lot of ways. And I think you guys personify that, and I thank you. Because, you know, sometimes that's what it takes, you know, is the young folks coming up and saying, we've had enough. And sticking their neck out and just saying this is the end of it. We want better. And I would say maybe put a spotlight on the success stories. Like, what is it out there? Who's pulling it off? The idea that we can't survive without chemicals, we can't feed everybody if we don't poison ourselves, is like retarded. Like, it just doesn't even make sense. It's totally like not logical. And the industry will have you to believe that there's no other way to survive without our chemicals. Cha-ching, cha-ching. Don't buy the BS. We survived as a society long before this, and we're smarter and better than chemicals. I'm just saying.
Well, here's the thing on this program, from all the farmers and all the scientists that we've had on, we have learned that actually the inverse is true. When you learn how to farm in a biodynamic manner and you learn how to care for the soil, your yields will increase. You will make more money. You will have less outlay, less expense for your seeds and your pesticides, and you have increased yield. You have a healthier environment, and everything looks better. Crops yield more, lawns look better, you have fewer pests just by taking care of the soil. And that's kind of what we need to get back to. I mean, both in Hawaii and in Oregon too. I mean, we don't have to use these chemical methods. It's already been proven that it can be very successful not to use these chemicals. And I just think it's really great. Sorry?
I'd like to answer to that, if I may. Like you were saying, that you were hoping to find a word of an organic farmer in our story, and unfortunately, there are not that many organic farms here. You know, a lot of them didn't want to come forward to talk to us because there's some sort of, a push for diversified agriculture that kind of brings all together, and it's really not being supported as much. I mean, we have found through our story that only 1/3 of agricultural lands are actually being used for agriculture. So there is a dilemma because there's a lot of development that wants to be taking place here in the North Shore, and there's a lot of people supporting agriculture, and they want to keep these lands as agricultural lands. So it's kind of like, sure, we would love, I think that's, part of the thing is, like, most of the people in the North Shore would love to have agriculture farm coming in, and we have 2/3 of our land available for agriculture. Why isn't organic farming thriving in Hawaii? It's not. I mean,
I have to tell you, so my day job is I'm a real estate broker, and I own a brokerage, and I've done it for 20 years, residential and commercial. And I just did a scan of Oahu looking to see how much acreage I could find that would be suitable for an organic farm. And there's quite a bit of land, but when you start looking at organic farming, you have to look at what was the land used previously for, and how close am I, what's the drift ratio going to be, right? So a lot of that's competing with it. And there are organic farms, and you're right, they try to go at least under the radar of media. They don't really want to put themselves out there. I think if you would have maybe massage that a little bit, you might have gotten an interview or two. I could probably hook you up if you really want to go down that road. There are, in North Shore, they're doing it well. They're doing it right, and they're making money. But yeah, they just try to fly a little underneath the radar, and I guess I don't blame them. There's a volatility for sure on the island that maybe other places don't have, that they have to deal in, and especially at the North Shore. I happen to know of a few stories of folks being put out of business over there, and that's not cool. So, but yeah, there are lands available, and it's good to know that your community would welcome them. I know that there's a shift in the consciousness, especially at the North Shore. You guys just had a food safety food summit in North Shore that I was told those speakers would never have been welcome historically, and now the shift is that they are welcome and they want those stories coming out. So there's a shift, and it's a shift in the right direction. And I, for one, would love to be farming organically on Oahu. I know that that's a little trickier on Oahu than it is on some of the other islands. But I know there are even celebrities that have bought large tracts of land. I know Oprah and Roseanne Barr and a few other folks have invested heavily in the islands and are looking at organic farming and are participating in organic farming. I don't know to what level, but they're out there. They're out there. And I think as more of those stories come out, and the success stories especially, it will entice folks to go into business. And to take the higher road, the one that doesn't end up with babies that have birth defects or, questionable air or questionable soil, but where everybody can benefit. It doesn't, or going organic is just growing the way we used to. This whole chemical company lobby is a blip on the map, and I'm telling you, once they lose market share, they will abandon the islands, and you'll have unemployment like crazy. And once people figure out that it can go from point A to point B, chemical to illness, all of a sudden you'll see people turning their back on these companies like crazy. Nobody's going to want their products. Nobody wants to eat their food. Nobody wants to be part of the big experiment, and then you're going to have to, the new entrepreneurs are going to have to come up and figure out ways to feed the people while working with nature, So I'm glad, for one, that you guys have taken on this topic. I hope you continue with it. And I hope our viewers continue looking for that information, because the truth is buried. It's under the soil right now, and it takes good folks looking hard to find it and good people pushing it out there. But the tide's changing, and the tide's with us now. So it's a good time to be alive, guys. Good time to be in this business too. A freedom.
I heard an expression the other day, Rachel. I can't quote who said it. It was somebody that brought it up in a meeting the other day, and it's how to make the invisible visible. You need to make what's invisible visible. And this sort of heavy pesticide use is happening in our neighborhood parks, in our forests, in agriculture, all over the islands of Hawaii. They're also experimenting in Puerto Rico. And so I think that the main mission here needs to be, first, raising awareness, and second, exactly what Rachel's saying, do it in a positive way. Show the positive of what can be done. Undo their mythological story that we have to live with these heavy chemicals that are having an impact on ourselves, on our pets, on our environment. Let's show the positive. Let's continue to raise awareness and shine the light. I mean, you students are so enterprising. It's wonderful. I'm inspired that you're out there doing this, teaching people about what's going on, because a lot of people go about their daily lives and kind of don't think about it. But if young people start paying attention and putting out media like you're doing that other people can see, maybe you can wake up other people, and in a very positive way, keep this movement going, raise awareness. So bravo to all of you, and to your professors and graduate students and whoever's been supporting you. I think it's great that you're curious. Curiosity is so important in life, and that you're exploring, and that you're doing it even-handedly in both cases, both at the University of Hawaii and in Oregon. You did ask industry people to give you their side of the story. You gave them the opportunity, and so it's really great the way you're going about this. I admire you.
Thank you.
Keep asking questions, not permission.
Better to say sorry later.
No, don't even apologize. Don't even apologize. Never apologize for telling the truth. Anyway, good guys, keep up the good work. And for our viewers, we'll have links to Drift and to the Facebook pages and to the work from the students at the University of Hawaii. I appreciate you guys coming out. Any last questions? Any last announcements from anyone?
Thank you for having us. We appreciate the support. Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah, we're excited about this coalition between the university and meeting you the GMO-free news. It's definitely a pleasure, and it's like awesome to keep hearing that the word is still getting out there, and there's still people out there doing research, and good research, ethical research. So
yes, ladies, stay tuned to our channel. Stay tuned. We have so many. We have such great shows that we've done before, and it's heating up as climate change is coming on. We've got free energy information coming out. We've got all kinds of information coming on about bans, restrictions, the trade treaties that are happening, the TPP. I don't know if you're all on board with that, but there's all kinds of global movements happening. Some questionable and some totally right on time, and I'm excited about. So stay informed, stay tuned, and we'll catch you next week on GMO Free News.